everyone, and welcome back to our Golden 20s podcast. My name is Teagan, and I'm doing another solo episode this week. For those who don't know, Sadie has been sick. She had some strep throat, she's had some ear infections, and just overall not having a good time. She's starting to feel better now, but I figured I would do a little solo week so that she can focus on feeling better. So send all the good vibes Sadie's way so that hopefully we can be reunited next week. But I thought it would be fun to just do like a little chatty, almost like FaceTime catch up vibe to this week's episode and just sort of talk about some things that have been on my mind. But before we dive in, I am going to do a connection card. This card says, do you ever feel misunderstood? How so? Share a story. I think definitely, I feel like everyone probably feels misunderstood at some point. For some reason, the most obvious thing that's coming to mind is just like me not being able to like vocalize something properly and people getting confused, whether it's like I'm trying to tell a joke and people taking it seriously or vice versa. So yeah, I definitely feel like I get misunderstood. And I think like publicly posting my opinion, you also get a lot of comments of people who are like not understanding what you're saying, whether they're not understanding on purpose or not. So definitely. But I think like so does everyone. I hope. And if you're watching this episode, like the video, do not mind my bright red tongue. I just had a slushie because it is so hot here. The summer is deadly, so my teeth and tongue are bright red, but that's okay. I'm also like sort of surrounded by junk right now because we are currently packing up our house to move, which is obviously super duper exciting, but you know, it's just a lot. We've got a lot going on, but it's all good things. And that was kind of part of what I wanted to talk about. I had the realization as like all this stuff is changing, all this stuff's going on, that this is actually my last summer of my 20s, which is crazy because my friend was talking to me and she was saying like, wow, your summer's so busy. Where do you find the energy? And then I was like, okay, I better come up with a good reason. And then I was like, oh, my reason is this is my last summer in my 20s. So I really gotta like embrace the vibe, embrace the chaos, brat summer, bring that energy. But it's just making me think a lot about all of the things that I've sort of like achieved in my 20s. And the first summer I spent as a 20-year-old, I believe that was 2015. Is that math right? I think so. And just how different my life was then. So for those who don't know, I'm 29. I'm going to be turning 30 on June 3rd next year. So basically I will be starting the summer in my 30s, which I'm very excited for. Lots of people ask how I feel about leaving my 20s, turning 30. I'm really excited. I don't think I'll be one of those people who like lies about their age or anything. I do think I still look quite young. Like I still get ID'd, even though you can drink at 19 here in Canada. So that's nice, I guess. But yeah, I'm excited because I've heard that your 30s are like your 20s, except that you care less about what people think and you have more money. And both of those sound good to me. I think thinking back on, you know, my first summer in my 20s, 2015, I was still in school then. I was still at university. So my first school, I had been dating my now husband, I think for 2 years at that point, or a year and a half. So that was still there, which is just crazy that that's been a constant for so long. But everything else has really changed. Like I was studying film, so I was still kind of in the film space, but like I was working at Wendy's. I was renting a house through the school year and living with my parents in the summer. And yeah, working at Wendy's through the summer, chilling. I don't even think I had a car. I would have been getting paid like, I don't even know, maybe like $16 an hour Canadian. So not that much. I remember I would just work and work all summer to save my money to basically get me through the school year. And it would always be like by the end of the school year, I had like $100 left. So it's just crazy how much has changed. Like from then, I started obviously not working at Wendy's anymore, started working in the field that I work in now, which is still film and television adjacent. I went to a whole other school. I got my certificate. I got married. I had 2 weddings. We've now bought a house. We've adopted 2 cats. Like just so much has changed. And yet it doesn't feel like long ago, but it does feel long ago. Like all of those things don't feel like a long time ago, but I feel like a completely different person, which I think is good. Like I'm grateful. I think that I've become a better person, a more well-rounded person. And I think that that's like something really joyous that hopefully comes from your 20s is like learning who you are and what you value, what's important to you and what you're working towards and what you are not keeping in your life versus what you are keeping. Like my friend circle does look different and that's fine. And I think that anyone who's gone through their 20s can probably say the same thing. People who were your friend when you're 20 might not be your friend when you turn 30, and that's fine. I also don't live in the same place. So at that point, I was living between like my small hometown and St. Catharines, which is where I went to school. I moved to London at one point, Ontario, not London, England. And then eventually moved to Toronto, which is where I currently live. I've lived in 3 different places in Toronto in my 20s. I do really hope that in my 30s, I am moving less because let me count the times I moved in my 20s because it was crazy. I like moved into residence, moved into my house at university, moved into my house at college, moved into an apartment in Toronto, moved another apartment in Toronto, moved into my house in Toronto, and then we're buying and moving into another house. So what was that? 7 moves? Like that is too much. 7 moves in 10 years. That's actually crazy. I've also changed a lot of jobs, but I feel like this is kind of what your 20s is all about, is like figuring out what's working and what's not. Like you don't know until you make the move that you don't want to live there. You don't know until you accept the job that you don't want to work there. So that is a part of it. It's just crazy that so many changes have happened in such a short amount of time. I did also want to talk about something that gets brought up a lot, at least to me. I don't know if Sadie gets this. I'll have to ask her. But I get asked constantly, what's going to happen to the podcast when you turn 30? And to me, I was like, this question's so bizarre because nothing's going to happen. Like you can still talk about your 20s when you're in your 30s. Or lots of people, usually men, ask, are you going to change the name? And I'm like, no, because like I said, you can still give advice on your 20s when you're in your 30s. In fact, that's maybe better because like I would have gone through it and can actually give advice as someone who's like, okay, I survived my 20s. Here's the actual tea. But I don't know. If you have thoughts on this, let me know. I think that we're just going to keep it the same, keep giving advice. The other thing is we were calling it our golden 20s because we were in our 20s, but also it's the 2020s. So we still have a couple more years of that. I don't think I'm going to change it to like our dirty 30s or something. I don't know. Maybe Sadie has a different opinion, but those are my thoughts. I just kind of feel like as Sadie and I get older, we'll hopefully be able to like continue giving even better advice. Who knows though? I hope that you all don't stop listening as soon as I turn 30. That would be so sad. I think getting back to all these summers in my 20s, I kind of wanted to go through and talk about some of the things I'm hoping to bring into my 30s. Even though like I'm talking about this like I'm turning 30 next week, but it's just very top of mind. And things that I want to leave in my 20s and some things I think that I've already left. So I think starting with things that I've like already left, I'm getting so much better, I think, at my people pleasing. And this is something that became like a real problem, especially at the beginning of my 20s, is I was punished a lot by people for not people pleasing. And so I was like effectively being trained to people please, which is so bad, so toxic. Like, luckily, none of those people are in my life anymore. But it's taken literally this entire decade to sort of unlearn that. And I'm still unlearning it. I'm still working on it. I think that that's something I'm very grateful for and have to continue working towards. So that's kind of a major thing. Also, kind of allowing people to treat me badly. I've had a couple of like eye-opening moments in my 20s where I'm like, how is this person thinking it's okay to treat me this way? And sometimes I'm like, it's because I've allowed them to treat me badly for years, so they think it's okay. Other times it's like, oh, this person's just crazy. It's not going to work. Like, they think that this is okay because they're messed up, but there is an element of letting people treat you badly and then they push it as far as they can go. I think I'm also leaving behind my need to be perfectly liked, especially at work. I am just, like I said, a people pleaser. I'm a perfectionist when it comes to that. And I never want people to think badly of me or not like me, especially at work. But I find that as you get older and realize what work is to you, which for most people, I think work is a way to pay your bills so that you can live your life. Obviously, if you do work that you're passionate about, that's great. And I'm very passionate about my work. But the reality is, it is just for me to pay my bills for the most part. If I won $1 billion tomorrow, do I think that I would do that work? Probably not. And that's fine. I feel like that's probably realistic for most people. So one thing I'm hoping to leave in my 20s as well is like the need to be giving it above and beyond for work when I'm like, nope, I'm getting paid. So I'm here. I'm doing my job. I'm doing it well. I'm taking it seriously. And then once it hits 5 o'clock, I'm logging off because it's time to live my life. And so that, again, is a big learning from the beginning of my 20s until now, where at the beginning, I just thought jobs could treat you however they wanted because I didn't know that they can't. So I've learned how to stand up for myself. I've also started to learn how to be the bad guy at work. Now that I manage people, like, you're not always going to be liked, especially if you want the work you're doing to be good. And so, yeah, it's awkward, but sometimes you just have to be like, this isn't going well. We need to have a conversation about it. Me as the person who's managing you. And if you have a problem with it, too bad. And it's hard, but I really, really hope that through my 30s, I'm like continuing to learn how to do that and getting the opportunity to manage more people, because the more I do it, I feel like the better I get. I also think that in my 30s, I want to do more creativity. I feel like I started my 20s very creative, and there's always been creative threads going through. But I really want to try and bring more like out of the box thinking. I don't want to ever get lazy or do something because this is how we've always done it. And whether that's like at work, at home, for the podcast, like I don't want to do the same thing on the podcast every week because, well, that's what we always do. I want to continue to make the podcast better and try to come up with good content that you're all going to be interested in. And obviously it's hard. It's hard to do stuff at a high level every week. It's not going to be realistic. Shit happens. But I just want to continue to be creative and continue to put myself out there. I don't want to be scared. I want to still be, like posting on TikTok and doing all these things that I see people say they're too scared to do. It really brings me joy. I also want to continue like getting out there in the world. I don't want to be like, okay, I'm 30, I own a house. That means it's time to be a grandma, which obviously, like, there's probably people listening who are 30 and own a house and are like, yeah, no duh, girl. But I just feel like some people, when I'm talking about the house buying process, it's like that's what they think my life's going to become, which I really don't want it to be. I do want to spend more time at home, especially like making this house into our perfect home. And then it makes sense that if we make it perfect for us, we're going to probably want to spend more time there. But I also want to like continue to travel, continue to go to concerts, continue to just go like downtown for dinner and drinks with Tyrell or with my friends. And I don't want to be giving that up just because I'm like, well, I'm 30 or, well, I have a house and it has drinks there, I want to continue to like live that life and bring the 20s energy. And I think that I will, which is partially why I feel like I'm not worried about turning 30. I also think because of COVID, I like lost 2 years of my 20s. So mentally, I'm like, I still have 2 more years really to just like bring the chaos. So I definitely want to bring that like 20s energy into the 30s. I do want to leave behind in my 20s some sort of like unhealthy habits. There are things that I'm way better at now. Like I'm way better at being physically active, eating healthier, drinking more water and stuff like that. I think in my 30s though, I need to prioritize like eating healthier, period. Even just like moving my body more. Like I have gotten better at that over the past like couple of years, but COVID really messed with my whole trajectory of my 20s. And so right before COVID happened, I was very active, very fit. I was doing like multiple workouts a week, eating pretty healthy. And then through COVID, it got messed up. And I feel like I haven't quite gotten back to that place yet. But I'm hoping that, again, having like my own kitchen, that sort of vibe, inspires me to be a little healthier, be a little better with my meal planning and things like that. So that's another big thing I kind of want to bring into my 30s. And then one of the last things that comes to mind for me is prioritizing the simple but important things. Because I feel like I sometimes get wrapped up in like momentum, and I want to be able to prioritize like my relationship, my home, me, not, like people pleasing other people. So I'm trying to leave behind the parts of me that sort of like encourage me to not prioritize those things and then bring forward the things that help me. So that's really kind of like a theme. All of this to say, this is my last summer in my 20s. I do still want to embrace it. I want to go out. I want to be silly. I've already had so many like silly little nights. Sadie and I had a night going out and we got so many little boyfriends. We have to have like a full debrief or something one of these weeks because it was just like so silly, so fun. And I really want to do that again. I want to just like continue going out and having fun. But I just feel like, I'm so excited for where everything's going, where my life's going, how I feel like I've matured so much and so many good things are happening and I can just like feel the energy. So I am very excited, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what this next half a year brings. I never got to do like a whole little birthday debrief just because June's been so crazy for us. So this is kind of like a mini birthday debrief to talk about it, but I think that's where I'm going to leave it this week. Like I said, I just wanted to have a short little like chatty FaceTime episode, the vibes where it's just like I'm downloading a brain dump of things that I've been thinking about lately, because I'm hoping that if there's someone else listening who's kind of in a same situation, they're listening and they're like, oh yeah, that's exactly how I feel. And I also just wanted to be like open about like what's happening with the podcast when you turn 30. Hopefully nothing, but who knows? So yeah, as I said, that's where I'm going to leave it. Thanks so much for listening. Hopefully Sadie's back next week and we can get things back on track because it's just been crazy. Like these past couple months, it's been a roller coaster, like good stuff, bad stuff, just trying to like get through. So hopefully we can get things back on track, but we do obviously appreciate everyone who's been tuning in and listening every week. We do put out a new episode every single Tuesday, no matter what. So make sure you are following and subscribe to us so you see when those new episodes drop. We also release them early on Patreon and ad free. So if that's of something interest to you, check that out in our episode description. I also saw that Spotify launched like a new comment section basically for episodes. So if you listen to the podcast through Spotify, you can leave us a comment, which is kind of cool. So feel free to leave any comment, whether it's just like you saying hi, you saying where you're from, you saying what you want us to talk about, things you like, things you didn't like, anything like that. We love to see any of your comments, really. And you can also follow us on social media at our Golden 20s on all the platforms. I think that's everything. So I will see you next Tuesday.